Here in Proverbs chapter 12, he begins with a statement, and then he gives some great words of wisdom for us. He begins with a declarative statement that those who love discipline love knowledge, but he who hates reproof is stupid. Now, oftentimes we tell our kids not to call each other stupid, but the Bible says that if you don't love discipline, then you're stupid. If you don't like someone to come along and say, hey, you're doing this the wrong way, let me show you a better way, then you're just stupid. You're not being smart about things. And then the rest of the chapter, he deals with giving some proverbs to some of the most important areas of our life. He deals with your wife, your work, and your words, and in some ways your worth. Beginning with your wife, here in verse 4, he says, an excellent wife is like a crown to her husband. But if a wife brings shame, it's rottenness to the bones. In other words, he's telling us here, choose wisely, son. Choose wisely who you're going to marry because they can make or break you. A wife is a helpmate, someone who is to encourage us and to lift us up as the husband is to the wife. And if you find an excellent wife, man, they're going to add to your life. But your wife is not a neutral impact in your life. They're either going to make your life better, or here he says, man, if they bring you shame, it will bring rottenness to your bones. And then jumping over to verse 8. Verse 8 kind of deals a little bit about our worth. He says here in the text that a man commended according to his good sense, but there's one who is twisted is despised. That if you have wisdom, you're going to be looked upon favorably. You're going to be looked upon with great reverence. And so our attitude, whether we're humble or proud, and he deals with it also here in verse 9. He says, it's better to be lowly, to be humble, to be thought as not having much, but you actually have a servant. You actually have wealth. You actually drive a nice car, have a nice home. Then to act like to play. Notice here he says to play like a great man and you lack bread. It speaks to your character. It speaks to your worth. And then he not only talks about our wife and our worth, but he also talks about our work here in the text. He says, whoever works with the land has plenty of bread. Again, this theme over and over again. And you know why? Because we forget. We're prone to forget. And Solomon knows, just like he was prone to forget, so is his son. So he's repeating these same things over and over again so we'll learn them. And that we truly grow and we would work with our hands that we might have plenty to eat. And then as we jump down to verse 16 and 17, he gets in back to our words. And in particular, I love this. It says, vexation of a fool is known at once. Vexation, that's like frustration. And he's saying, listen, if somebody does something to you and they can immediately see it on your face, man, you're a fool. Like you know it immediately. But on the other hand, someone who is prudent, they ignore an insult. That you can ignore it because as soon as you show your frustration, then, man, that fight begins and it's kind of back and forth. And then finally, let's look over to verse 25. Verse 25, last proverb to look at today. In verse 25, he says, anxiety in a man's heart weighs him down, but a good word makes him glad. As believers, as wise people, we know that our words are like silver and that words have the power of life and death. And Solomon is encouraging his son to use his words to give people a good word that will make them glad. But anxiety just weighs us down.